All right. So I'm looking at my watch going, wow, they gave me the last spot. Is anybody going to be here? It's a beautiful day outside, and we're sitting in here looking at our tablets and our digital devices. So it's my pleasure to finish the conference for you today in the last agenda here in the Gold Room. And I think what you've been doing the last few days is absorbing lots of information around what's happening in our world today. The pace of change is accelerating. There's new communities, there's new ways of communicating, there's new ways of organizing, there's new ways of doing all kinds of things in your organizations. And what we're going to close the program with right now is, so what does it mean to us as leaders of people? How do you lead and how do you win today in a crazy, crazy digital world? And so I want to ask all of you for a second to work with me because I'm really frustrated about this question. What is the biggest driver of creating value? Even in a digital world, in an analog world, what is the number one driver of value creation? What creates value in any organization? Talent, people. That's right. So why is it in every organization I've ever worked in, the worst systems are the people systems? Why is that? Why is the last agenda of a board meeting of almost every company I've worked for, the last thing we talk about is the people? This is where the value is being created. Why is that? So I ask all of you, as you think about creation in your business, and you think about what's in front of you as leaders, what is your talent strategy? Because this should be the most important strategy that you have. I think a lot of us get seduced by our product roadmap and our innovative solutions. Guess where those innovative solutions are coming from? People. So if you want the best, don't you want to have the best talent strategy first? I'm telling you, I've worked for 25 years in 8 organizations. I've worked in the US, I've worked in Singapore and Asia, I've worked and lived in Canada, I've worked in 7 different industries: fashion, wholesale, insurance, retail, networking. And it's always been a struggle for me to understand why we don't have more creative talent strategies. What I'm going to offer you today is some ideas and some different ways of thinking, because so much is changing that's going to force us as leaders to be more effective and to lead differently today. It's a new reality, and I think we need to think about leadership differently. And I think it's actually exciting. Let's talk about one of the realities I think that we all face, and that is this openness and this incredible world where I believe that employer brand is merging with product brand. And I would argue, and I'm biased because I'm the people guy, I would argue that talent brand, your employer brand, is almost going to be more important than your product brand. Believe that or not. That I think we're seeing emerging. In organizations today, there's increasingly this new job that's been created probably in the last 7 or 8 years called the employer brand advocate. Somebody's looking over your employer brand. And the way I look at employees, and those of you that saw some of the panels earlier this week around talent, is that your employee is actually your marketing department. Your employee today has a device that makes them your public relations firm. So the question I have for you is, if your employee has a voice and you want the best people in there, don't you want that voice to be positive and constructive and telling amazing stories about what it's like to work in your organization? We are working in an experience economy increasingly. And if I hate your company and I hate working for you, do you think I'm going to tell people about it? I will. And to the opposite effect, I think we need to think about that. If you believe the world is open, if you believe actually your employees are going to tweet, they're going to post on Facebook, they're going to go tell their friends on Instagram, they're going to take photos, they're going to share experiences, they're going to tell people on Snapchat what it's like to work there, don't you want to fill that channel with positive? Yes. Do you have a strategy around that, or are you just letting it happen? Oh, Friday, it's the beer party time, we're going to play ping pong, let's put pictures of that. Or are we going to create amazing experiences? When I was at LinkedIn, we decided that we were going to create a day, one day a month. It wasn't a new idea. We had our next door neighbor, Google, was doing the same thing. We said, one day a month, you can do whatever you want. You can volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. You can organize a blood drive. You can help a veteran find a job by developing their LinkedIn profile. Do whatever you want, but it must be something you love. It was a day of passion we created. And that one thing we did, one Friday a month, completely changed the trajectory of belief and trust and excitement in my organization. And we were amazed at how much people tweeted about it, how much people talked about it, and how our challenge of trying to recruit people turned into a magnet where people started coming to us. Do you want to be a place where the best people want to work? Then create experiences where the best people want to play. Employees today don't want a job, they want an adventure. Are you talking about the adventures? And if you're not, what are you doing? Do you have a strategy around that? Reality number 2, transparency. We've heard about it all week. The world is far more transparent. So what does that mean for leaders? I think it means that you need to know that people have an expectation that you're going to communicate the truth, you're going to communicate authentically, and you're going to communicate decisions quickly. Because we have an immediate gratification culture right now. People want to know. I want to play a game now. I want to do this event now. I want to order my groceries online now. I want to do it now. People want to know the decisions now. Why did you make that decision? Tell me. And I think we've grown up in a system where we'll tell you what you need to know when you need to know it. I've worked in those kinds of places. Have you? You know what I'm talking about? You can't do that anymore. That's awesome. It's forcing efficiency and a talent challenge on leaders. You have to communicate more. Because if you're not, guess what the human mind does when they don't have information? When an employee or an individual or all of us, when we're suspecting that a decision was made and we don't know why, do we assume the best or the worst? The worst. Why do you want to have anyone suspect the worst? We're going to have to communicate more. We're going to have to share the decision-making more. And guess what? You don't have to be right all the time. Do you know that the most loyal customers in the world are not the ones you never made a mistake with? The most loyal customers are the ones you did make a mistake with and you course corrected. I'm telling you, I've made so many mistakes as a leader, but when you fix it and you apologize, you say, I was wrong, we'll do it, you're building trust. You're building loyalty. I think we put pressures on ourselves as leaders that we have to be the best. Guess what? You have to be authentic today. You don't have to be right. You have to build a skill of recovery and moving forward quickly. That's more important than being right, because you can't be right. Things are changing too fast. So you can relieve yourself a little bit of the pressure, I hope, and recognize in a world that's changing so quickly, recovery, communication, more important than ever before. Digital reality, I think, number 3. Competitive advantage comes from moving fast and making decisions quickly. I believe the leader of tomorrow and the leader of today that's going to win is not the best decision maker. I don't think the best decision makers are the best leaders. I don't. I think the leaders of today and the future are the leaders who connect the ideas and the right people with the right people in the organizations. They are linking communication. They are listening and finding out what's happening over here, what's happening in the market. You need to talk to Jose. You need to talk to Sarah. You need to talk to Luis. You need to talk to Nacho. You need to talk to Rodrigo. Let's connect these ideas. I heard something over there. You are a connector because things are moving too quickly. We need to piece it together. And that's fun. You're solving a puzzle now. You don't have to have the answer, but you know those two people together are probably going to have the answer. Are you spending time on that? Do you think about that? Do you think about how fast things are changing in your organization? Are you pairing people together? Or are you believing that you have to build a dependency on yourself because you have the big title next to your name? Don't put that pressure on yourself. You will not win. I spend time in companies around the world, small companies, big companies, and I increasingly feel that leaders are still putting this pressure on themselves that they have to be right and they have to gather all the information and then make the decisions. You have to connect the people who are going to be able to make the decisions together. Things are changing and moving too fast. And competitive advantage comes from how well you're building a network and how strong. So Reid Hoffman, the chairman of LinkedIn, I got to sit next to him for a few years, amazing man. He says, power today is not your knowledge. Power today is the knowledge of your network. Are you creating opportunities for you to interact with all the people you need to in your organization? Are you connecting opportunities and creating them so that the right people are meeting and collaborating? Or are you having everyone work from home and they never talk to each other and they never see each other and they never collaborate? Like, we have got to find ways of allowing people to share these ideas more. That, I believe, is one of the biggest strengths of leaders in the future. Fourth point here, iteration is your friend. I said this earlier, it's worth repeating. You cannot be right all the time. And having worked in the web business for the last 4 years of my working life until I started my own business about 3 years ago, we built a company with largely about 50% of our population were software developers. And the great thing about a software developer is I'm going to do an A/B test. I'm going to try this over here with this set of users, and I'm going to try this over here a different way with this set of users. And whichever one we find out works better, we're going to use. We did the same thing with leadership at LinkedIn. Let's try this bonus plan over here in this country, and let's try this bonus plan over here in this region of the US. Let's see what happens. Let's see which one we like, and then we'll take that one. We didn't have to guess which one was going to work in every way. We did that with organization design, how many layers we should have, how we should organize the office, what it takes to get promoted. We experimented, and we tried, and we learned, and we fixed. And our employees, trust me, I was scared as a human resources person. I don't want to leave that up to my people to figure out how often people should be reviewed for more salary increases or how often they should be promoted. But because we experimented and when we failed or we course corrected, our employees actually felt more loyal and more excited about joining our organization. This is how I think increasingly we're going to have to lead in the future. Okay, last point, and those of you that saw me on the panel yesterday know the rant that I went on around mobile phones. I have a question for you. Do you see the mobile phone as a threat in your organization? Or do you see it as a really cool technology with lots of cool apps that are really going to help us run this business? I got a problem with mobile phones. And I am guilty, as a lot of people are. How do you build trust and relationship when you're looking at a device versus looking at a set of eyeballs and a face? Do you build trust better through a text or through a face-to-face communication? Have you thought about that? I think our seduction and our love and obsession with this technology is wonderful, but there's got to be a way for us to use this in a way that's actually allowing us to get closer. Because those of you that saw Lisa Gansky on the stage earlier today, she said something that hit me to the core. The new currency of the future is trust. Trust, I believe, comes from human contact. Human contact through a text, through an email, is nothing like human contact when I touch you, and I look at you, and I affirm you, and I connect with you, and I feel you. This is the challenge we've got in the new digital reality. Shouldn't all these incredible tools and resources give us insights to know one another and connect better and find a job that we love, not a job that's good enough? Don't you want that? Don't you want to be somewhere where you're doing your best work? Don't you want to be the leader who's finding the best work for their employees? Is that important to you? Do you want that? Then build a talent strategy that does it. Do you know what that talent strategy is? No, unless you ask your people. I've worked at LinkedIn one time, and we asked a question that I was so scared of asking because I never asked it anywhere before. Do you love working here? And what can I do to make you love working here? Have you ever asked that of your people? Have you ever been asked that? Because I'd never been asked that before. And I was kind of like, I don't even know how to answer that question. Do I love it? Am I supposed to love what? Reframed it. Because guess what? In Silicon Valley, if your people are not happy, guess what they do? They take about 5 steps and they're in the house of another competitor who's going to pay them twice as much. Easy. And I know in a lot of regions of this part of the world, unemployment is a very different situation. But you will feel it. If I didn't distinguish myself as being amazing, my talent was going to find amazing. I'd have people come to my office, Steve, Google has Lady Gaga coming over there performing today, and Facebook's got LeBron James coming tomorrow. I was like, well, I got, really nice cubicle over here. If you want to do some work, and we got really good Wi-Fi. So we said, screw it. We're going to start creating amazing experiences that are really going to change the game and building opportunities for people to spend time getting to know one another. So I ask you, what's your talent strategy? Do you really believe people are how you're going to win? Are you spending more time on that than anything else? I think you should, but I'm converted. Leaders of tomorrow are the ones who authentically are leading from the heart and are building personal connections. In a digital world, we need to remember those digital insights are valuable to us because we should know more about each other. I still can't believe that I get calls from headhunters asking me questions if I want to work for a certain company or I want to work in a certain part of the world. And I said, I have assets about me and my background and videos of me and interviews and all kinds of things I've published all over the web. If you did 5 seconds of homework, you would know, I'm not interested in that company and that job. Why are you bothering me? Use the insights that you have. We did a very simple thing one time at LinkedIn when we were trying to compete with recruiting. Tiny little insight. When we would set up an interview for an employee that had to drive to our offices from more than 20 miles away, we shot them a text with the traffic report and a Waze link so that they knew when they needed to leave and what time they needed to get there. And when they showed up, we gave them a tablet to allow them to find what rooms and what people they were going to talk to. And if we changed who was going to meet with them, we gave them the profiles of those people. Tiny little thing, but they loved it. People are scared sometimes when they're applying. Leverage that technology in ways that are going to allow you to build trust and confidence. Super important today as we think about it. Really, really important question that we need to ask ourselves as leaders and in your organizations today. If you want to hire the best, you need to be clear that not all the best is going to want to work for you, and that's okay. But who are you? And why does someone want to work for you? You better know the answer to that question. I've worked at companies where we never asked that question. Why does someone want to work here? We thought we knew the answer, but we never sat and said, who's the right person for us, and why do they want to work here? And what problems are we solving that are different than anywhere else that they could make? I think we need to ask that question because people have increasingly more choice of where they're going to want to work in the future. So fill that information in the best possible way. Manager-employee relationship going through lots of transformation. I think you all feel it. I don't know that there's one right organization structure of the future, but I do believe that you need to invest more in building relationships than you ever have before because there is more distraction. There's a lot more distraction. The final point I'm going to make here, and then we can wrap up the conference and hopefully head to get some beer and more beer, is this. When we were growing our organization really fast at LinkedIn, we really started to be very afraid of becoming a big company. In 3 years, we went from 400 to 1,000 to 2,000 to 4,000. And the sense of connectedness was starting to erode, the sense of being something special. Everyone was a new employee. The average tenure in the 4 years that I was at LinkedIn was 9 months. So we were all going through this, it wasn't like we were learning from walking to running. We were going from crawling on our stomachs to trying to stand up as an organization, literally. Organizational puberty at its purest form. And we said, how are we going to preserve our culture? How are we going to be something special? And what we thought about was, well, what's happening in the world today? What's happening in the world today is we're losing a sense of shared experience. I can be binge watching Breaking Bad, and you could be watching Downton Abbey, and you could be watching Game of Thrones, and we're all watching something different. We're not sharing the same day-to-day reality anymore. But there is a place where we are sharing a similar reality, and that is our work. We started creating these weekly company meetings that became like a comedy show, but it was an information distribution of everything that was happening in our company. And we created a shared experience. We never sent emails about company information. Think about that. I was lucky my CEO hated email. And he was a perfectionist, so he would take 3 hours to write one email. I said, forget it, we won't do emails anymore about anything about the company. But in that company meeting, in 45 minutes, once a week, we're going to say everything that you need to know about what's going on. And that meeting became, if you didn't go and you didn't see what was happening, you didn't know anything. Didn't know about what was happening in the market, didn't know about what was happening in the organization, what the competitive intelligence was. We created a shared experience. We have got a chance to create something magical in our organizations today. So then I challenge you to think about that. Make talent your number one priority. Make it the first thing you talk about every time you meet with your other leaders. What are we doing to make this place great? Do we have everything we need? Do people know why they're here? Are we asking them what do they love? And what are we filling their hearts with things that inspire them? Because who wants to work in a place where you're not inspired if I can find somewhere else where I am inspired? So with that, I hope that you can digest a lot of all the fun and exciting and new ideas in a way, and I hope I've given you some practical ideas that are going to help you. I hope you had a great, great visit here in Bilbao. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Steve es nuestro último ponente. Con él cerramos EEC. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Espero que lo hayáis disfrutado, espero que hayáis aprendido y esperamos veros el año que viene. Gracias de verdad. Chao.
So I ask all of you, as you think about creation in your business and you think about what's in front of you as leaders, what is your talent strategy? Because this should be the most important strategy that you have. I think a lot of us get seduced by our product roadmap and our innovative solutions. Guess where those innovative solutions are coming from? People. So if you want the best, don't you want to have the best talent strategy first? Communities, there's new ways of communicating, there's new ways of organizing, there's new ways of doing all kinds of things in your organizations. And what we're going to close the program with right now is, so what does it mean to us as leaders of people? How do you lead and how do you win today in a crazy, crazy digital world? And so I want to ask all of you for a second to work with me because I'm really frustrated about this question. What is the biggest driver of creating value, even in a digital world? All right. So I'm looking at my watch going, wow, they gave me the last spot. Is anybody going to be here? It's a beautiful day outside, and we're sitting in here looking at our tablets and our digital devices. So it's my pleasure to finish the conference for you today in the last agenda here in the Gold Room. And I think what you've been doing the last few days is absorbing lots of information around what's happening in our world today. The pace of change is accelerating. There's new, in an analog world, what is the number one driver of value creation? What creates value in any organization? Talent, people. That's right. So why is it in every organization I've ever worked in, the worst systems are the people systems? Why is that? Why is the last agenda of a board meeting of almost every company I've worked for, the last thing we talk about is the people? This is where the value is being created. Why is that? I'm telling you, I've worked for 25 years in 8 organizations. I've worked in the US, I've worked in Singapore and Asia, I've worked and lived in Canada, I've worked in 7 different industries: fashion, wholesale, insurance, retail, networking. And it's always been a struggle for me to understand why we don't have more creative talent strategies. What I'm going to offer you today is some ideas and some different ways of thinking, because so much is changing that's going to force us as leaders to be more effective and to lead differently